I think this is going to be part. I think this is going to be part 4. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Strange position to play. Strange position to be put in," said another trucker. "Look how he's in line. Plus, he's so far back here, nearly up against the wall, separating lot from field. Damn, it's as if he was placed under the tandems. I'm betting it was another suicide." A red-haired trucker then said, lot of that going on in this profession. No one wants to pay a trucker a decent salary no more." An angry voiced trucker then added, "Probably had to pay another fine for accidentally going over a bridge with the weight limit sign deliberately removed." Daniel got a better look at the corpse and noticed that, in spite of being crushed, there was a lot of blood around the throat. "Looks like his throat was cut as well," said another trucker. "Boy, it sure does, by golly," said a hearty, tough, large Marge of a lady trucker. "Looks as though he was slashed clean from ear to ear. Look at all that. Look at all that trail of blood there, starting over here. Wow, notice that all the blood seems to be coming from his throat region and not from any other place. By golly, I think you're right," said an old trucker. Another trucker was scanning the body with the flashlight and said, "Oh, looky here. Looks like he was stabbed too. See where the guts are coming out?" Looking about him, Daniel remarked, "Maybe he was a Aloha snack bard." "Aloha snack bard?" shouted one of the truckers. "Did you say Aloha snack bard?" Daniel looked about for a place to run. "What? Are you a hater?" asked another trucker, as if he was on the verge of shouting. Daniel noticed that one of the truckers, a few feet from him, was a Muslim. A tinge of fear increased in Daniel on first seeing him, but then he noticed that he was dressed as a Muslim with full beard and Islamic garb. The fear toward that Muslim quickly diminished, for Daniel strongly believed any Muslim who was acting like a Muslim in America was possibly of the peaceful variety, or a Muslim who still didn't know his Quran and Hadith very well. To Daniel, it was any Muslim trying to appear Western that had to be watched with extreme caution, especially if that Muslim had a beard and Islamic garb a day earlier. The Muslims who were stalking him now were clean shaven and wearing cowboy hats. Realizing that the Muslim a few feet away from him was possibly a real trucker, just interested in trying to find out what was going on, Daniel noticed that, "Oh, where am I here? Oh, good. Yeah, I'll continue. Yeah, because I thought, hey, wait, yeah, I started over again. Okay, yeah, all right, okay, yeah." Daniel noticed that the concern of him being, yeah, realizing that the Muslim a few feet from him was possibly a real trucker, just interested in trying to find out what was going on. Daniel noticed that the concern of being a possible hater was actually coming from the truckers who didn't seem Muslim at all. Daniel looked shocked over their concern and replied, "Oh, sorry, my bad. That did sound hateful, I guess. Sorry." "You guess?" asked another trucker. Yeah. "You guess?" asked another trucker. "You guess?" Um, you don't want to be arrested for being a hater, do you?" asked still another trucker. No, I don't. I prefer the prison of my truck," said Daniel, backing away. The trucker with red hair pointed at the squish trucker and said, "Well, I'll be dooby danged. Why, he's wearing a Marty shirt." "Well, I'll be dooby danged. He's wearing a Marty shirt." "What's a Marty shirt?" asked Daniel. It's it's that new petroleum company that's using monster tankers to haul petroleum," said a bearded trucker. They pay real good. The bearded trucker placed a lot of emphasis on the word real. Really? Responded Daniel. Monster takers, you say? Well, if this guy was working for such a company, where is that monster tanker he was driving? Dale looked about. There was no sign of the special tanker truck at all. The Marge, looking truckers thought, then laughed, saying, "Maybe he just wore this shirt so people would think he was special." An old trucker responded with, "Yeah, it was. If he had a Marty truck in here, he was special, all right. Specialized and retarded. I mean, all them things is bombs." "True," said the large Marge. You're allowed more than one accent with a regular rig, but you aren't allowed any accents with a petroleum rig." Because they'll fire you?" asked Daniel. Large Marge laughed and said, "They don't have to. The truck does the firing for the company, if you know what I mean." As the large Marge laughed at her double entendre, and another trucker talked about how a huge truck stop could be entirely incinerated if a Marty truck was struck by a novice trucker. Daniel decided to get back to his truck. He passed by um, the woman trucker who was now talking to 911 dispatchers on her cell phone. Daniel upped his speed and scanning all the trucks around him. He quickly ran to his truck when he noticed that the crowd was growing around the scene. He thought for sure that his would-be killer might come into the mix as well. Back at his truck, Daniel noticed his hand was shaking as he tried to unlock the cab door. He kept his eyes on the dark places among the idling rigs around him. When he got the door unlocked, he quickly jumped into his cab and locked the door behind him. The light that was still on in his sleeper quickly went off when Daniel jumped at it, pressing a button. Daniel picked up the little package of flour he held. He was earlier going to place into a packet with the CD and said, "I lost my chance. This probably was the place for it after all." Daniel tightened his fists with anger. He then looked down, feeling ashamed that he felt so cowardly around those truckers, asking God to forgive him for his cowardice. "I'm such a coward. I couldn't even call them Demis, which they are." Daniel kept a wary lookout at all the trucks. He looked down, feeling ashamed that he felt so cowardly around those truckers, asking God to forgive him for his cowardice. I did that, right? Yeah. Daniel kept a wary lookout at all the trucks, seeing if there was anyone moving quickly and suspiciously in and out among them. As he watched, he picked up his old electronic logbook. No messages had been sent on it. Daniel then reached under the control panel and pulled out a 357 Magnum from a place where something yellow was located. When no one was looking, he started putting bullets into its chambers. After a spin of the barrel, he put it down. He put it back from where he had gotten it and started up the engine of his truck. Right when he noticed snow beginning to blow in on the truck lot. 2.5 hours later, Daniel was lumbering his 18-wheeler through Ely. Is it Ely or Eli? I'm not sure. Eli. I call it Eli, but Daniel thinks it's Eli. Well, it's probably Eli. Well, it's probably Ely. 2.5 hours later, Daniel was lumbering his 18-wheeler through Ely? Or Eli? Ely, Nevada, wondering how anyone kept their sanity in such a small, desolate town before the internet. It was far away from civilization. As he drove down the Great Basin Highway that seemed deserted, he thought of the town's name and muttered to himself, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Suddenly Daniel froze. There was the same young Middle Eastern guy who had mimed throat cutting on the truck stop, now standing on the corner of the street, watching him go by as his cowboy hat collected falling snow. The same furious look in his eyes that had chilled Daniel to the bone earlier that night. When Daniel was parallel to him, the guy lifted up his hand and acted like he was taking shots at him, mouthing the words, pop, pop, pop. Daniel tried to keep his cool. He just smiled and waved at the guy, all the while ready to jump for his gun if the guy went from miming to the real thing. Daniel wondered if he could call the Eli police. Eli police station to see if he could have a cop car escort. But how far would they escort him? He then suddenly realized that cops might think he was a kook, or worse, a paranoid hater of Muslims. Of course, he knew he didn't have to tell them it was Muslims who were stalking him. But who would he say it was? He didn't want to lie. Daniel trembled to think that if cops... Daniel trembled to think that if calling the cops, they might want to search his truck to see if he was taking some kind of drug that might be making it act like a paranoid hater or a paranoid Islamophobe. If the cops did that, Daniel shuddered to think how they might react when they found him armed and what he secretly had tucked away in his truck for the past week. If searched, he'd have to kiss trucking and freedom goodbye. Hello, prison life, he said to himself. And would he be any safer in prison? Could he actually convince prison Muslims of the errors of their ways with Islam without ending up being beaten to death? Could his months of studying karate save him? He wondered. Suddenly a car zoomed past him. It flipped a U-turn down at the end of what seemed to be Eli's main street. Thinking it was his wannabe killers, Daniel saw a sign for Highway 6 and turned on it. As he headed down Highway 6, he pulled out a different gun from where the yellow object was. This one was a Glock 19. Daniel put it in the top inside pocket of his leather jacket. He then pulled out his 357 Magnum and put it under his right thigh. As he headed out of Eli, he jumped when he heard honking behind him. A car was speeding toward him from behind. Daniel automatically put pedal to the metal and to get the truck traveling as fast as he could. But the car not only overtook him, it passed him. Daniel took his foot off the accelerator and fearfully wondered if the car ahead of him would suddenly stop, with Muslims jumping out and taking shots at him, shots through his windshield. Instead, the car kept on speeding until it disappeared into the darkness. What relief Daniel felt suddenly became replaced with an old familiar dread as his cell phone started ringing, showing the number of his trucking company. It was his dispatcher, Desmond, calling to stress another concern. Hello, Desmond, said Daniel. Working overtime. I thought you'd be home by now. Oh, wow, I got her in.